So welcome back. We're talking $1 million careers. And as always, I've got my good friend, Rob Houghton with me. Rob is up in Washington, D.C. He is the number one executive recruiter for the insurance agent for the insurance industry up in the D.C. metro area. So, hey, Rob, good to have you back on.
Good to have you back on, Craig. It's all good. It's all good in Washington, D.C. It's a little bit rainy today, but the Washington Commanders won last night, so people are in a good mood.
That was an ugly win. Oof, that was an ugly win.
They're just a bad football team with bad ownership.
I don't know who's worse, the Commanders or the Bears, who couldn't get the ball into the end zone. The final play of the game. Like, come on. So
how do you not get that ball in there?
I don't know.
Just a total breakdown. The Commanders are a good example of a dysfunctional, bad organization. Somebody ought to do an organizational study on that whole organization, starting from Snyder down, and write a book, 8 things not to do in an organization, because that organization is just piss poor, man. I got to see the last 10 minutes of the game. I sat, I was telling you, I sat literally in the emergency veterinarian's office yesterday for 2.5 hours and came out $2,000 later. So if your dog ever gets bit by a snake, which mine did, got tagged by a copperhead, I can tell you exactly how much it's going to cost you. $2,000.
$2,000. So we were walking along a nature trail last night, and she got tapped by a copperhead, and $2,000 flew some antivenin and whatever else. I'm like, wow.
I hope your dog got a few treats out of that.
I don't know. She's still not. We'll get her later today. I don't know. Yeah, she'll get a couple of treats, but yeah.
Is she still over there?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
What the hell?
24 hours. It's like 24,
my God.
They give her 24 hours. It's like her legs swelled up like a freaking balloon. And like, whoa, this is pretty wild. So,
well, it's a good thing, she wasn't stung in March or April, or else it could have been lethal.
Yeah.
That's when these snakes are full of venom,
Yeah. The thing about it, and this is where, I think about people a lot, and then we'll get into our topic, but in this veterinarian's office is probably 15 people with their dog, with their animals. And, you think about people's pets, and you think about, people working hard, and they get, just a bill.
Yeah.
Just some, and you're like, people live in paycheck to paycheck.
Oh yeah. Jeez.
And they're walking down the road with their dog, and they're walking down the path with their dog, and boom, next thing you know, they're $2,000 lighter. And like, I can afford it. I'm fortunate. I can afford it. But you look at the people that really can't, or they just, and you're like, man, this is why I like doing this. Cause I hope it, these podcasts, I hope it puts a little power in somebody's, in somebody's stable. They can go earn a couple extra bucks in their life, or, whatever, but make a difference, and some positive difference. Cause you feel about the people that, they love their pet, but they don't have $2,000 to go get them fixed up. It's emergency. So anyway, that's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking about last night when I was sitting there. I'm like, how fortunate we were, how fortunate a lot of us really are in our lives.
Yeah. The guy in the, stands of the football games probably just hating life because the guy didn't get in the end zone. I mean, he has no idea the sorts of problems other people have. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, there we go. Hey, so let's talk about reverting to the mean.
Yeah, man.
So, obviously you and I trade a lot of stocks.
Yeah. I'm more of a buy and hold guy. You're a wild man out there, man. I'm just a buy and hold, just value dividend stocks. I just let them ride,
But if you're trading, and you got to figure the world is trading right now. I mean, it's not necessarily trading, but people are changing jobs. Companies are making people changes. They're evaluating their businesses and where they're going. But ultimately, what it all comes down to is, listen to this guy talk, the other day, and then I was checking out some multiples on some stocks. I'm like, at the end of the day, everything really is, the whole world really is a pendulum, and it swings to the right and it swings to the left. And eventually it comes back to the mean. If stocks are way overpriced, I think the S&P was trading at a 23 multiple last year, when historically it trades at a 16. It's a good time. And when it's at 23, it's a good time to sell. And then just wait. You could see what was coming. You could see literally everybody who knew anything about stocks knew that there was going to be a sell-off at some point.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's how the universe works, man. I mean, the reason why we're all still alive is because there's a delicate balance, and it just doesn't happen. There has to be some rhyme or reason, call it divine providence or something, but everything is held in balance. Mm-hmm. So you're right. I mean, everything ultimately reverts back to the mean.
Look at the political situation in the country. Yeah, we had a wild swing to the left, and now I'm kind of feeling that there's going to be this violent swing back to the right. It's going to be, but then a couple of years ago, you had the Tea Party way out to the right, which kind of, brought things back to, which created a swing back to left. So ultimately you try to find a happy median in the middle. I think the employment market, I think companies and people are trying to find that balance right now.
Yeah. I was doing, I do an annual salary report. And I was looking at the insurance market, and for those insurance listeners out there, they can identify with this. But I was actually looking at it last night. Between about 2006 and 2013, believe it or not, salaries were just about flat. I mean, if you were a sales guy, that's a totally different story. Mm-hmm. But if you were an account manager, customer service representative, client executive, client manager, support service in the insurance brokerage industry, mm-hmm. people just weren't getting raises. I mean, it would be like 1% a year, 2%. And I remember back then doing my report thinking to myself, wow, I mean, these people are basically flat. And after inflation, they're losing ground over the course of 6, 7, 8 years. I'm thinking, how can these people do it? And then everything changes. And now my last salary report, the salaries were up 11.3%. That means people that were making 80 are now making 90. People that are making 100 are making 115. And I hear all the employers are up in arms now. Like, these things out of control, and salaries are out of control. And I have to remind them, hey, dude, think back 15 years ago. It was a period of almost 10 years where salaries were flat. So as you said, it's coming back to the mean now.
It's coming back on the flip side, in the business jet market, it's going crazy. I'm talking to a lot of these guys who are out there in the business, these sales guys out in the business jet market, and they are making a trash load of money. I mean, 7 figures, close to it. And, I'm sitting back and I'm like, man, that's great. I'm glad you guys are doing really well. But the false sense of security they get is, one, the business jet market is just, it's like the stock market was, a year and a half ago. It was just kind of irrational. The business jet market is irrational right now. And these guys are making a pile of money. And there's 2 things I think about. I go, one, are you making a pile of money because you're good? Or are you making a pile of money because the business jet market's just irrational right now? And this crazy amount of demand. Now, the time will tell. Has the demand curve shifted so that is a steady state? Or is it a temporary deal where these folks are making a trash load of money now, thinking they're really good, and then they have a come to Jesus moment when things dry up?
Yeah.
And whoa, what do I do? What do I do now? What do I really know? So there's a big difference between, hey, I'm riding high on a wave, versus, hey, I'm a really good surfer.
Yeah. But, a lot of people are focused on these compensation raises, and a lot of firms are trying to attract talent, because talent is the true arbiter now. It's no longer the technology you have, how many smokestacks, inventory, product. That does still make a difference. But really, how companies compete now is who can attract and retain the top talent. That's really where the action is, in that talent interface. And what smart companies are doing now, as you said, salaries are probably not going to start regretting or moving
Reversing.
back to the mean for a while. But the smart ones, some of my clients are attacking it in a totally different way.
How are they
They're
doing it?
saying, hey, Rob, how can we attract top talent and retain talent without having to pay these 15, 20%, cash compensation raises? One of the ways that my insurance clients are doing it is they came to me and said, Rob, what are candidates looking for now? I said, number one, they want to work remotely. Number two, your firm has to have purpose, and so I took one particular small client of mine in Bethesda, and they were small. They were like 25, maybe 30 people. This was right when COVID started. And they said, Rob, we want you to build us a great team, and we want to double in size in this very difficult talent squeeze of a market. They said, how can we do this? And I said, you know what? There's a lot of firms now, big firms that have quality people, that are not allowing their people to work fully remote. And these people are tired of the 1 hour commute, the 90-minute commute both ways. And by the way, there's a lot of talent down in Southern Virginia, out in the hinterlands, but good talent. If you open up your business to 100% remote and get the technology that will enable these people and empower these people to work collaboratively in a positive atmosphere remotely, we can take a lot of those people. And the guy surprisingly said, let's do it. So we went on a mission to recruit top talent and offer them 100% remote, and not even big salary increases. We're talking like people were making laterals. And they've gone from 25 to 43 people. That's 18 people in less than 2 years. That's more growth than they had the previous 50 years in the company. So that's another way to skin the cat. You don't have to pay people a lot of money and wait till this market corrects itself from a salary standpoint. There's other ways you can do it.
Yeah, no, I think what you said about purpose is great. Bill Koch is a former CEO of AMR Combs, and he does a lot of executive coaching. He works with some, very high powered. Apple is one of, I think Apple's one of his customers. He's doing some great stuff. And the first thing we had a podcast a couple of years ago. And the first thing he says was people want purpose. It's interesting. Money is a driver, but we're talking about now the big, the conference I'm going to be speaking at in 2 weeks. It's how to retain people. It's have purpose, and show people what what the purpose of the company is and what their purpose is. Nobody wants to come to work just feeling like a cog.
Yeah. That's how you revert back that's the smartest way to revert back to the mean, is offer people something qualitative instead of just throwing more money at people.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is that I think finding out what people want. I look at the airlines now. I'm laughing. The airlines are all scrambling because they're Delta just reported really good earnings, but a lot of them are scrambling and trying to figure out, how do we make money without the business client? Zoom, nobody wants to travel now. Is that an anomaly, or is that going to come back to where business guys start to travel? Well, I'm sitting there looking at it going, I'm not hugely price sensitive on plane tickets. When I travel on business, I'm not hugely price sensitive. I am schedule focused.
Yeah.
And I want the easy button. You think about, if an airline came to me, American, who I travel on exclusively, hint, and said, hey, give us $20,000 on January 1st, and we'll do a subscription. It's some sort of subscription. And all you have to do is get online, that $20,000, all you have to do is get online and book your tickets. You can have, as many trips as you want, or whatever. Figure, hey, look, for $20,000, you get 20 round trip tickets, and you can pick any schedule, any way you want. I would do it in a minute.
Yeah.
I would do it in a minute because I don't have to get on and go, oh, I got to go buy my seat. I got to go do all the other crap. It's just like, I could just go book. I don't have to worry about the bullshit.
Yeah.
It's just easy. I go in, I go click. Thank you, Craig. You're booked. And I get it by schedule. And you think about employees, it'd be the same thing. They don't necessarily want money. They want other things.
I just want a nice seat. The Airbuses are different than the Boeings, and I don't know what it is, but when I fly overseas, I'm always looking for that Airbus because the seats seem to be nicer and wider and roomier for some reason. I avoid Boeing like the plague now.
I'm a schedules guy. I'm a schedules guy. I want the 6 o'clock in the morning flight out of Wilmington to get wherever I need to get to. And I want to be home I want the late afternoon flight to be home by, 10 o'clock at night. That's it. And make it simple for me and I'll pay for it.
See, I'm a comfort guy. I'd rather leave at like 11 o'clock in the morning, get there, have a late dinner, find a nice hotel, and then just leave the following day, like 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. West Coast
to East Coast is the red eye. That's, I'm not going to kill a whole day, but it comes back to, once again, here we are in this, candidate. I don't want to say candidate. I hate that word candidate, but I'll say it anyway. Candidate driven market, people driven market. The interesting thing you sent me from, the one Malden report.
Yeah.
Which I love, this labor shortage isn't temporary.
Yeah.
Your supply curve just shifted. It's structural, it's demographic, and it isn't going away.
Yeah, I know.
It may improve somewhat, but even in a return to 28 conditions, won't restore the normalcy employers want.
Yeah, it's a permanent change because it's a demographic change because of baby boomers. We don't have enough people to fulfill these jobs.
Yep. So
that's not even counting all the people that have left the job force because of long COVID and disabilities and,
So what brings that back to the mean? Technology. I mean, a lot of fast food companies are getting robots now.
Yeah.
Is it, from $1 million producer standpoint, what do companies do, what do companies do to keep their costs in check and their businesses moving forward?
Do you know what I think part of the problem is? I think part of the problem is companies have to get smarter on how to on how to enable and empower their employees to be more productive. I really think now that there's a lot of people out there, particularly this Generation Z and even the millennials. I don't think they're as productive as they could be. I talk to young people all the time. I've got 3 sons, I've got nephews, and the constant drumbeat is, my company, my employer really doesn't give a shit, and, I'm going to put my time in, I'm going to work, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. Mm-hmm. But that's it, man. At 5 o'clock, I'm hitting the bell and I'm out of there. And I'm not talking about my sons, but they know other people that they work with. And this is the status, this is a state of the workplace for people age 20 to probably 35. Okay. And I think it's incumbent on the employers. I know I tend to take the candidate's viewpoint, but I'm just giving you the other side of the situation is companies have to get better at empowering and enabling their employees through things like, not just metrics. People are managing based on metrics, activity. You got to have purpose. You have to have a mission. You have to provide opportunities for people. You have to pay attention to your employees. You have to treat them like human beings. You have to coach them. You have to mentor them. You have to train them. You have to pay attention to these people because if you don't, they're going to go to sleep on you. So if you if you have a business, it's probably a realistic expectation that you're not going to get a lot more qualified people because the candidate pool is so small. So why don't you take who you have and make them more productive, enable them, empower them, and you're going to. I'll guarantee you could probably squeeze twice as much out of people than you're currently getting. But you got to be smart about it, you know?
Well, yeah, look, no, I mean, it's the same thing. Why don't you just ask the question? Instead of having these company-wide surveys and stuff like that, why don't you just, look, break it down into small teams? You got a vice president who oversees a team of, a couple of directors, a couple of managers. Break it down into small teams and go, what do you people want? What do you folks need to do a darn good job?
Exactly.
And I think it comes down to is if you communicate with them directly and forcefully, and you say, okay, if I eliminate all of these barriers to your success, if I make your path quite easy, are you going to do it? And if the answer is yes, then you can hold them accountable because you said, hey, look, you told me you needed all these things to be successful, and I gave you all these things. Now it's on you.
Yeah.
And that's where you start to see who in your team is real and who in your team is not.
Yeah.
Who's making it and who's faking it.
Here's the other thing it's actually pretty funny, actually. And the reason why I say funny is because I laugh at these people. So how about the client who's hiring, let's say, a mid-level manager, and they've got a budget of $100,000, and you find a rock star. You find somebody that's highly educated, young, attributes, the skills, the interest. I mean, they're just a rock star, but it's going to cost them 110 or 115, and they say it's just too expensive. This person's overpriced. This is before the interview. They're just looking at the resume. They only got 7 years of experience. I'm looking for 12 to 15, and I'm like, I'm telling you, just talk to this person. This is a rock star, man. These are the kind of people you want. And they'll just say, HR comes back and says, I'm sorry, but we don't believe this person is worth what they're asking for. They're greedy. I say, how do you know? You haven't even talked to them yet, And then they'll talk to them, and then they'll still say, it's just too much. And I have to think to myself, rock stars in a company do 80% of the work, right? Yep. 20% of your people are going to do 80% of the work. So instead of pissing and moaning about, I can't find enough good people, why don't you find fewer great people? That's how you skin the cat, Pay somebody a little bit more, pay premiums for some people, knowing that they're going to produce a lot more than the average person. And you want the all-stars, man. Yep.
I placed, so I had this conversation. It was kind of a humorous conversation the other day. So this year I've placed, I don't know, really, I have 3 or 4, 5 directors of operations for aircraft operators and 2 directors of aviation. And, I'm talking to a lot of, pilot leaders. I know what they're making. It's real time. This is real time. So I'm talking to this fella and his company, and they're not in a overly desirable metropolitan area. And he's like, my HR team is looking at data from last year. They're saying that pilots should make $165,000 a year, and a chief pilot should make $180,000 a year. And I want to go find. I said, well, when the laughter stops. When you go out to the market and the laughter stops, come call me and I'll tell you exactly what these people are making.
Exactly right.
And he goes, why is I go, the market is just shifting so fast. Airlines are hiring like crazy. Yeah. A lot of pilots left the industry altogether. They aged out. It's like, it's just a supply demand equation now. And I said, here's what you need to, this is what you need to pay. And I go, look, at the end of the day, you're a publicly traded company. Your market cap is in the tens of billions of dollars. You've got assets that are worth 100 million. Is the extra $20,000 you need to get the right person on board really going to make a difference in your life?
Yeah.
No. Think about it logically. You're like, all right, let's put all the data aside. Let's start looking at stuff real time and go, look, if we have to overpay a little bit for a superstar, and we can keep that superstar in the organization, do we really care about the little bit of extra money we have to pay to get them? Or do we look at the value that they bring? It's a cost versus value type of deal.
Yes. So how do you define how do you explain, articulate, and present a candidate that you think is a superstar to your client? How do you do that?
I say, look, here's the track record that they bring to the table. That's one. So a lot of times, look, you're working in a parameter. If company says, hey, look, if you bring us somebody who's, let's just say 150, 150 on the low, 200 on the high. You're just working in that thing. You're saying, look, if you,
do you think so we're talking about regressing or reverting back to the mean, okay?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of compensation, let's just talk about that for a second. Do you think the mean is shifting upward?
I think it's changing. I think it's changing, but I think when people start to say, okay, look, if the new norm is 200, and then all of a sudden everybody's, when you see people taking advantage of the situation and saying, I want 250, that will work for so long. And then the other side, look, everybody gets a vote. At the end of the day, you think about Russia, Ukraine, the Russians forgot the Ukrainians get a vote in their country, and all of a sudden now you got this big mess in Ukraine because, Russia, they thought they're going to take the whole thing in 2 days. Their expectations were unrealistic, so now here we are. I think when you have candidates or executives whose expectations are unrealistic because the market is not rational, eventually the other people, employers are going to figure out situations to bring the expectations back in line. The other guy gets a vote.
So you think that how this thing actually reverts back to the mean is the people that got greedy and really drove up the compensation levels are eventually going to be the people that when the music stops, they're not going to have a chair, right?
I think that they get cocky. I think greed brings cocky, which brings unemployment.
Right. So that's how we get back.
And I think maybe that's a little bit because look, employers aren't stupid either.
I tell people that too all the time. I told the guy probably about a month ago, I could just tell he was just getting, I always ask, because in Maryland, Virginia, Washington, D.C., and a few other, and I think 22 other states, it's no longer legal to ask someone about their salary history.
Correct.
So you can't do that anymore. But the question I do ask somebody is, and sometimes people will, volunteer the information, but I always tell them, what you're making and what you made is irrelevant, really. But I really need to know, what would your salary expectations be if this opportunity had everything that you wanted qualitatively? And they usually tell me a number. And this guy said, the market value for this position was probably 140 to 150. And this guy's like, it'd have to be something that begins with a 2. I said, you've got 8 years of experience. It just seems kind of high to me. He says, that's what I want, And I told him, I said, if you take a job at 200,000, you're setting yourself up for a fiery crash. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, because you're going to walk in there. First of all, you'll probably find somebody who will hire you because they absolutely are desperate. And if you get this job, you make one mistake, man. You say the wrong thing. You're going to get shot in the back, man. And
that's what reverts it back to the mean. Is that if you come in and you say, I want a lot, you better bring a lot.
And you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself, man.
It's my brother and I we went to go see NC State play Texas Tech. a couple of weeks ago up in Raleigh. And we were talking about, the conversation was Heisman winning quarterbacks who flamed out.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And it's not a short list.
Oh yeah.
You think about it, it's not a short list. And these guys come in, they leave college and they go to the NFL and they say, I want big bucks because I won a Heisman Trophy and the expectation is high. And then they flame. And it's never pretty. But then there's guys like Tom Brady who gets, who gets drafted in the seventh round and becomes the GOAT. Or Baker Mayfield and Patrick Mahomes. And Mayfield won the Heisman. Mahomes wasn't even in the top 10. Yeah. You ask a lot, you better bring a lot. And if you don't bring a lot, it's a very, very short conversation.
Baker Mayfield is a terrible actor too. Have you seen him on these commercials with the bathroom? Like, what is this? I mean, who the heck hired this guy to do TV commercials for whatever? It's the guy's a bad actor too. Not only a bad quarterback, but I feel sorry for this guy, man.
What do you feel sorry for? He's made a pile of money in football. He's made a pile of money in his, at home with Baker Mayfield commercials. I think I don't know what company sponsors him, but he's made a pile of money. He'll be a distant memory in the NFL in 2 years, and but he'll walk away with a big paycheck, and he's fine.
He'll be selling used cars down in Alabama somewhere.
But I think that's kind of the thing is that, hey, look, if you're a company, you got two choices. You can go out and you can go pay for somebody you want, or you can develop somebody you want. And that's what brings it all back together. And now companies in a rapidly changing demographic market where expectations are shifting, companies got to get smarter and how they hire, how they retain, how they get more productivity. And on the flip side, people, got to say, hey, look, are my expectations realistic for the long term?
Yeah.
Or am I just on a sugar high?
No, you're right. I agree with a lot of what you said. I think that the mean is, things do revert back to the mean, but I think the mean has inched up over the last couple of years. We'll never get back to where we were, but I think the key question is, how do you attack this reverting back to the mean? If you don't have the compensation, you have to do it in qualitative ways.
Yeah, companies always be recruiting.
Yeah,
always
should always be recruiting.
Always be recruiting. And from the people standpoint, it's always be thinking. And it's always be thinking about, am I bringing it? Am I earning what I'm commanding? Am I bringing the value that I've asked for?
I think you hit on something there. I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, Glenn Ross.
Oh yeah, love
right?
that movie.
Do you remember he pulls the chart down and he writes on the board ABC, right?
Always be closing.
But you know what? It's always be closing. But what's even more important for the employers that are listening out there, ABR, always be recruiting.
Recruiting.
You should always be recruiting.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many times I've come across an absolute superstar and I'm thinking, wow, this person would be perfect for company B. And I call the guy up and the guy says, don't really have anything right now. We're full. And I'll tell him, just trust me, interview this person. And you know what? I've got smart clients and I got really dumb clients.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind having a dumb client. It's kind of entertaining actually, and they usually pay more.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you have to have some entertainment. And what you do.
Yep.
Some of these clients, they just make me laugh because they're just freaking, just dumb, dumb people. And the dumb ones will always say, I don't need anybody, call me back in 2 months,
Mm-hmm.
But the smart ones will say, hey, Rob, great idea. Let's talk to him. And sometimes they'll hire the person.
Send them over. Let's have lunch.
Send them over. Let's have lunch.
Cost you $25 for $25 for a pizza and a beer, right? You go meet the person.
It's the same thing with a candidate. How many times have you come across a really good candidate that you're thinking while you're talking to them, wow, they would be a good fit for company M?
All the time.
Talk to my client. And the person will respond, I'm perfectly happy. Don't bother me anymore.
Right.
I mean, like, if you really think about it, like, why wouldn't anybody spend 30 minutes on a Zoom call with somebody that someone else, a trusted advisor, would advocate? This is a no lose. You should do the call. You should do the call, gain competitive intelligence, find out about what you're worth, kick the tires. It's confidential. It's discreet. Why not spend 15, 20 minutes? People say, I don't have it. And then you look at what most people do during the course of a day. They're on the internet. They're making a phone call with a mom or dad. They're doing just bullshit stuff, And it's amazing how many times somebody just won't take the time. It's ABR, man. It's always be recruiting.
Yep. Gotcha. How do people get a hold of you, Rob?
They get a hold of me. I'm all over the internet, man. People are calling me saying, Rob,
you're all over the internet.
You're saturating the damn internet with your podcasts and blogs. And I got a reality show that's going to be kicking off November 22nd. It's called the Career Coaching Experience. It's a 10-part series. But yeah, people get a hold of me. Rob at mrfairfax.com. It's at the bottom of the screen. Email me anytime. I'm on LinkedIn. Always there, man. People, if you have any questions, whatever, give me a call. But yeah, thanks for having me on the show, Craig. I appreciate
Rob,
it.
Hey, it's our show. It's always great to have these chats. So you're heading to Europe next week, so go have a good time.
Yeah, man. I need a long overdue vacation. And stay away from snakes, man.
Yeah, well, whatever. So cool.
All right, brother.
Go enjoy your vacation. We'll catch up next time.
All right. Thanks, Greg.
See you, buddy. Bye. I hope you enjoyed the latest edition of the Aerospace Executive Podcast. You can reach out to me directly, Craig at NorthstarESG.com, or check us out at www.northstaresg.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, or on YouTube. Just do a search for Aerospace Executive Podcast. Thanks again. I'm Craig Piven.